Well, when I came to the conclusion making this album that like, okay, if it's my real purpose to help somebody, inspire somebody, motivate somebody, it's like I may have to sacrifice my privacy to an extent and talk about things that are uncomfortable for me.
Hey, say what's happening, man. Welcome to expediTIously. I'm your host, Tip T.I. Harris. Listen, on this show, our purpose is to intentionally have discussions that could push the culture forward, challenge
Mm,
thoughts, perspectives, evolve levels of consciousness. And we have those discussions with people who are relevant to the discussion. I guess today, man, you know what I'm saying, it's Big Sean. What up, though? Detroit native.
what up? Oh,
You dig what I'm saying? And Cole MC. Like, you know, I don't want to never negate or take that away. Like to say you're a platinum artist or to say you're you know,
yeah.
been had this award or that award. A Cole MC, like just a disgustingly meticulous, just a artist that perfects your craft by any means necessary and pushes yourself beyond your levels of limitations. And I respect that.
Hey, God bless, man. That mean a lot coming from you, obviously. You
Man,
know,
I
you
know how,
being in my to me and had such an impact on me growing up. So I mean, not even growing up because it's not like, but just maturing at a point in my life where, trap music was a big soundtrack for me. And then you went crazy after that, you know what I mean? So
man, I thank
even
you for
more.
that. I really, really
Hmm.
do appreciate that. I thank you for that, bro. And I think that is important, you know what I mean? Because what we're doing is the record sales, the number one chart positions, like you just got on your fifth solo album with Detroit 2. You know what I mean? You just premiered number one. How
Yeah.
many number ones is this for you?
Well, this is my third one actually in a row. So it's
Your third, okay,
seems
your
to be
third
right.
consecutive number one. You did
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah.
shit great. The platinum plaques and shit, that shit is great. Welcome semantics. However, we really do this shit to make a connection with people.
Period though. That was see to me like the number one was the cherry on top because for me, this album, it was like it was number one to me because of the intention I put into it, the
Right.
thought I put into it, the development of myself that I put into it. It would feel like it was my first album being that honest and open. So to me, I felt like I'd already won the second it came out, So the
Right.
fact that it did go number one too, that was just like, extra bonus.
Man, that shit was dope. That shit was dope. I really appreciate it. And the week you came out, the week you came out,
Yeah.
get number one that week meant a lot to me. I thank you for that. The
Yeah,
culture,
why is that?
the culture should thank you for that. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
why is that? I feel like because there were other shit that dropped that represented a perspective or a way of life that is in conflict with the culture. It's
Yeah.
not in the best interest of the culture. So for that to have a number one over Big Sean, to me, is counterproductive. So
Mm.
I thank you, man, for being the champion that you needed to be for the culture as you always have been.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it wasn't me, it was the people, so it was up to them, really,
true.
so
True, but if
I
you didn't tap
yeah.
into something that they related to that kind of drove them in your direction more so than that
Mm.
other shit drove them in that, because it's easy to manipulate technology and to kind of feed off of sensationalism instead
Mm.
of, you know, presenting true art.
Absolutely. And people, a lot of people live their life based off of just, I was just trying to make sure I stuck to the actual music of it all and just the art and, like, what I was saying. I wasn't trying to have no, like, drama or no motherfucking, like, you know, nothing that just wasn't the music or what I was trying to bring to the table. So
Right.
that's beautiful. And I do appreciate people being able to connect with that.
Well, I mean, now when you talk about, like, okay, very in an organic and a very genuine way,
Hmm.
when you say drama, to me, that says conflict.
Right.
Every human being has a certain level of conflict day to day that they have to overcome, find ways to navigate themselves through, and find, uh, 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 the most natural resolutions to them. And
Yeah.
on this, I heard several things that I didn't know about you, right? So
Right.
on one of your records, you said you had been diagnosed with a heart condition,
Right.
and they said you needed open heart surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to a holistic doctor for 3 weeks that prescribed you a mineral. What was it? Was it magnesium?
Magnesium.
Okay. That prescribed you magnesium in 3 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
In
Shorter
two
than 3.
weeks. Okay. And after that, there was no need for any more open heart surgery.
Nah, so Tip, like, look, this what happened. I had a heart condition where, your heart, there's a electro uh electricity, electromagnetic like wave that goes and makes your heart beat like that along with your blood. And it's like, your whole respiratory system has a pulse to it, and my heart, they were saying that my, whatever makes my heart beat like that was off. So my heart was literally beating like this.
Mm.
So I couldn't walk from one side of a room to another side of the room. It was real crazy. And it started getting worse and worse. And one time I got super sick, and it was so bad. I took a shower. I passed out in the shower, split my whole chin open. Had to go to the hospital, and that's when they did the test, and they were like, oh, "Okay, you got this condition." And the only way to fix it, I was in there for like a week, and the only way to fix it is to put a chip in your heart to shock your heart,
Nah,
to
hell
put,
no.
yeah, every time it starts beating like that, it would be a little electromagnetic shock to put back on pace. Or they said we can cut half of your heart open and scar it a whole bunch of times, and the scar should be big enough that the electricity can run through your heart properly. So
Man.
those are my only two options.
So you mean to tell me
And
they presented that and never any magnesium, never the thought of magnesium presented?
nah, because that's what they were taught, I guess. That as a doctor, they didn't know any. So my mom took me to Dr. Brownstein, which is still my holistic doctor, every time I'm home.
Okay.
Um, and he prescribed me a couple things, and one of the things he prescribed me was magnesium. I mean, it was just like a couple other minerals, but magnesium was the one where he was like, "Look, take this. This
Mhm.
is a natural way to put your body on its natural rhythm."
Mm.
Man, I went back to get my, more tests done and to prepare myself for surgery. And then they did like two or three tests. They had to keep doing it over because they was like, for some reason, your heart is just so much better now. Like, we don't. And I was like, I
Duh.
told them what I did. Me and my mom told them what I did, and they just couldn't. They were like, "Nah, it has to be something else." Like, I'm like, "Nah, it's
Man.
not." You know.
Okay.
But I'm a
Thank-
after that. After that, that made me a huge believer in just holistic medicine, and
Absolutely.
I'm very holistic. As much as I can be.
I mean, I think that we know that we were made in God's image, and
Hmm.
we know that we come from the dirt and shall return to the dirt, which makes us, if nothing else, organic. You know what I'm saying? Ain't shit synthetic by the makeup of the human body. Regardless,
Nah.
regardless of how synthetic we may, we how much synthetic shit we may put in it. Like at the end of the day, there is an antidote naturally prescribed by the earth for
Yeah.
every single ailment the human body
Everything.
possibly have. I'm turning 40, so forgive me.
You turning 40?
Turning 40 on Friday, bro.
Yay.
Hey,
A motherfucker
man.
wasn't even supposed to make it to 18.
What?
Managed to turn 40 somehow.
Yeah,
And be
I
up.
I can't believe 40, 40 is such a young age. I'm not gonna lie, in the grand scheme of things to me.
Hell to me.
And all you've done at before 40 is crazy to me.
I mean, how old are you,
God
bro?
damn.
If you don't mind sharing with the
I'm,
world.
I'm 32, so it's like, you know, I got like 8 more years.
Yeah, I don't have a
So
reason to not say how old I am. I'm 32. Shit, you're the 140, motherfucker. Nah,
no,
man. Listen,
I think I
it's
love being
progressive.
my age. I love being like, I feel like I was dumb as hell when I was 22 and
That's
21.
exactly how I feel, bro. That's exactly how I feel. As much as I recognize the difference in how my body physically responds to certain shit,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I'd never want to be a young nigga again, man. I would never want to be so out of the know.
Nah, it's like it's only better. Like I feel better. I look younger than I did when I was 22, really. So it's like it don't even matter. Like taking better care of myself. I learned a lot. I'm happier, you
Right,
know.
right,
So
right. And that's the true, like that's the true definition of quality of life. You know what I'm saying? Happiness, health, you know what I'm saying? Mental
yeah,
stability.
that's real success right there, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I
Yeah.
mean I definitely I love my age because I was told by OG long time ago in prison, you got two options, young blood, get old or die young. Which one you want to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and
I'll choose the
that's
former rather than the latter any day. You dig?
man.
So
You just see courtrooms and court size, man. Like I said,
man,
ain't too many people that
you do
seen
it,
that.
man. From the dope house to the White House.
Period.
Now, you have an interesting story as it pertains to your career.
Mm-hmm.
So in Detroit, you
Yeah.
managed to get your break by finding Kanye
Yeah.
and freestyling for him and convincing him to sign you. And you were so dope that day that he decided to, invest in your art, invest in your ambition, invest in your vision and your beliefs.
And gave me opportunity. Yeah.
How in the fuck did you do that? Because I'm asking questions that I feel like people who are not in our position, but who are in a position similar to the one that we made it out of,
Mm-hmm.
and they need
Man,
to know the cheat
well,
code.
it was a lot going into it because at that time I was in high school and I was like already selling all my CDs in high school. I was battle rapping
Tell me you
everywhere.
cut school to go find Kanye. Tell me that.
No, I didn't. I would have, but I didn't. So I ain't have to because when I rapped for Ye, it was in the summertime. So
Got you, got you.
at that time I was a telemarketer, cashing my check for like $120. But I have been doing this show every Friday night. They had a show. Now this is something I think they need to do in Atlanta. They need to do this in like all cities. They have a show called the Friday Night Cypher where it would be they would invite local talent and whoever they would battle rap each other to condense it down to like 8 to 10 people. And those 8 to 10 people would get to rap on songs that was on the radio, like over the beats. You know what I'm saying? It was called the Friday Night Cypher. So it was something I look forward to every week. And it helped me sharpen my skills of, being an MC. It helped. I was writing new verses every week for the radio.
Yo,
Had to think on the spot when you battle rapping somebody, you know what I'm saying? So I did that for like a year and a half. Like I just did that as soon as I turned 16. And Ye had just dropped late registration. And by the way, I have a song on my album called The Friday Night Cypher. That's what it's inspired by with all the MCs
mm,
from Detroit. That is from me doing that radio show called The Friday Night Cypher. So Ye was in the D promoting late registration. And I got a good relationship with that radio station. So I was just there the night before. He came on a Saturday.
mm-hmm.
I was just there the night before doing the show. So I lied and said I left my cell phone in the office last night. And they let me in the back. They knew who I was. And one of the DJs was like, yo, Kanye right down the hall. So look, bro, I already had my CDs I've been selling around high school. I had a press kit back then, like my whole bio. I was like ready for my shot. You feel me? Ran into Ye. Asked to rap for him. He said he ain't really had time like that, but then he was like, "All right, man, but you
As most of us do. As most of us do.
right,
Shouldn't take that.
right." He was
I want to let new artists and up and coming artists and future artists know. Just because you run into somebody and they say, man, they ain't got time to hear you freestyle, Don't hold that against them or take that as
No,
a defeat for yourself. That shit is about, you never know what the next motherfucker going through.
yeah,
I
nigga,
mean,
he could have been running 2 hours late. Like I get it.
right.
But then he was like, but I told him I was walking with him and explaining to him the song "Last Call" on his first album, what the impact it had on me, and then he was like, "All
That
right,
was
shit,
very
man."
interesting. That was well played. Very interesting move, appealing to the ego of the egotistical artist. That was very good.
Yeah, so
Pulled that one
which
out
was
in the clutch.
and it was true though. It was true, but yeah. So I was so then as we walking out, we get to the exit of the station and he hearing me out. He stopped walking and he hearing me. I'm rapping. Bro, I have been rapping, writing a new verse every single week for over a year. So I got so many raps that I'm just like
Yeah. You just
going
running the
going
motherfucker one after the other. Sound like one long ass verse.
yeah, and doing that radio show taught me how to rap under pressure because I would be so nervous every week on that radio. So
Right.
even though I was running into one of my favorite rappers, you know what I'm saying? It was like I was ready to go still, you know. So I guess it cut through to him, gave him the CD, gave him the press kit. And that was the initial meeting. Don C was there. So, Don C, yo, what up? Oh, okay, yeah, it's Don, Don C. That's my dog, right? I could do a real good Don C impression, but we could say that for later.
Hey, look, he
And
fine. He fine, man. He fine. And
no,
quiet as kept.
that's my brother.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, I have a lot of respect for him. Quiet as kept. He really kind of blazed the trail for the collaborations. You know what I'm saying? Like the shit that Supreme is doing, shit that
Oh
motherfucker
yeah.
Kanye is doing, the shit that Virgil is doing. Like
You talking about Don C?
yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
say
for sure.
Don
And
C, right?
yeah, Don C. And
Yeah.
Don C, the reason that really I got my deal too with Ye, I feel like Don was the one who really kept in contact.
Okay, you had someone championing your project and kind of keeping it in Ye's ear even after you had your initial interaction.
Yeah,
Okay, bet.
yeah. And Don has helped me later on in my career too. Like, but basically that was the first interaction, with Ye. And honestly, it took 2 years after that to get the deal done.
Oh,
So for
okay.
those 2 years, when I graduated high school, everybody went to college. I had a full ride to Michigan State. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, academic scholarship?
yeah, I
You had a
graduated high
full
school.
ride academic scholarship to Michigan State and said, fuck that. I'm going to good music.
Yeah, I did. And
Excellent decision. Well played, sir.
well, here was the thing. My mom, I come from a family of scholars. My mom is an English teacher. My grandma was teach. Everyone got their
That explains a
masters.
lot.
All these,
That explains a
yeah.
lot.
So, but my mom also had a dream, and my mom know what it was like to have a dream. And she said, as important as education is, I know how important it is to look back on your life and be happy that you followed your dream. So she was like, you can always go back to school. You're smart enough to always be able to do that. You should try and pursue this if this is what you really want to do. So my whole family was against it, mainly like except my mom. But even though they were against it, they still supported me though. My grandma was in World War II. She was
Mm,
one of the first female black captains in World War II. She was one of the first female, like she was a teacher, a counselor. So education to her, she came from West Virginia. That was a way to a better life for her. So she saved up her whole life for me to go to school. I had all these bonds that I ended up spending on studio time, and it broke her heart, I feel like. But
his grandma was still
she
alive.
still, nah, she passed in 2015, but before she
She saw
died,
you.
yeah, she saw me and I bought a house for them all. I moved everyone out into, a nicer place and she saw that happen. So it was cool to see that come full circle. You know what I mean?
Man, I mean, I don't think youngsters understand how valuable moments like that are. You dig what I'm saying? I feel like we chase a lot of I call them flash in the pan moments, you know what I'm saying? Moments that are
Hmm.
important for a millisecond. And then after you pass that moment, because time is fleeting. You dig what I'm saying? Motherfucking we
Yeah.
constantly evolving and time, what's important right this second If it ain't important in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, you know what I mean? And the shit really didn't deserve the amount of energy that you put into it. So
Yeah,
a lot of time we put a lot of energy and a lot of time in the shit that ain't as important as we
as we
think.
make it out to be.
Exactly. So that is important for I think young people to hear that you actually were able to show your ambitions be fulfilled and come into fruition uh to your grandma in front of your grandma who may have had some, some apprehensions or some concerns
Absolutely.
about your decision. And
Yeah,
she got
and
to see
especially the
you
time.
succeed.
Yeah,
That's
and
important.
especially the time between, like I said, it took a couple years after I graduated high school. So you can imagine the times where things were at a standstill, and she was like, you should have went to school. Like you could have got a whole year done. You could have been halfway done by now. Like, and that was tough to endure,
Mhm.
and see everybody I knew from high school, they was all,
Having
hitting
jobs
me up like,
and
man,
shit.
what's up with the record deal? What's up with this? Like, well, and I remember when everybody graduated, that was finally when I got to be on the cover of the Double XL Freshman 10. And that was like at least some validation that I could like be proud of to show people. And that was when I started really making a name for myself, So it was quite a journey and quite a test of the ego and faith and having an unbreakable faith and believing.
It's a testament. It's a testament. And again, I will point out different parts of the discussion that I feel like, what I'm saying, the youngsters who are in the position that we were in. I'm gonna point shit
Mhm.
out that I feel like they need to kind of write down to be on the test. Okay, so what his graduation will being on the freshman cup. You see what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So he endured years of doubt, years of criticism, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Years of judgment. You dig what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But he endured it. He didn't let it break him. He didn't believe in the doubt more than he believed in his vision, more than he believed in himself. And
Fact,
that's something that we all gotta do. Every artist that made it to this point had to overcome that.
facts,
All of
man. It was hard. It was hard. It was harder than some days were harder than others. And it tested your ego, and it really showed you like, okay, you got to put your pride aside. You got to, not be bigger than you are because here I was supposed to be signed to Kanye West in people's eyes, especially where I was
it.
from.
Sometimes
And
they
it
can
was
work
just,
against you.
yeah. So
'Cause
even when I needed a
they think
job,
you're supposed to have it already. So here
yeah.
you
So
is, you signed to Kanye, and you still asking for favors. Motherfuckers don't understand. You supposed to be doing for me now.
right,
Like that shit.
right.
Like that shit is that sometimes it makes the journey of the artist more difficult.
Absolutely, bro. There was times where I really needed money too. Like I needed to get a job, but I couldn't because it's like that would be embarrassing. I had to figure out my ways, but it's like I made it work somehow, and got
And
it, got
usually
through
motherfuckers
it.
sell weed, so you know what I'm saying. So congratulations to you for finding a way outside of, what I'm saying, stepping outside the law. Or if you did step
Yeah,
outside the law, you didn't get caught. So still kudos to you, man.
period,
What I mean?
period.
But you speak a lot about that time between when you met Kanye and he actually, allowed you the opportunity to show your skill and the
Mhm,
time where shit actually started working for you. Which brings me
mhm.
to my next question. How did it feel to be signed and then have to wait like 4 years before you released an album? A lot of
It
people don't
was,
know. A lot of people don't know that you were signed
yeah,
Def
I,
Jam, and
yeah,
but with no movement, no song release, no real action for 4 years. How did you
mhm.
remain vigilant in that time?
It was like there's no like blueprint to how to do it. I mean, especially back then, because it was like a beginning. It was the beginning of a new era again. Like it was like mixtape circuits were popping. Like it was like it was a weird time. Like it's like, okay, do we try and get a song on the radio? It's like, nah. But what I did was I was just like, all right, just let me just do me, like what I'm best at. And I just stuck to. I didn't try and be anybody that I wasn't, and I was still trying to figure myself out too. But I realized I was just growing up. You know, I was like
Yeah.
19. You know what I'm saying? So I, nigga, I just like was like, shit, I'm about to just drop a tape. You know, I found some producers to help me get my vision across, you know, and I recorded my first mixtape in basements, you know, out of the closets, like microphone, you know what I mean? Just like just going in, and you know, I was able to have Kanye like, you know, I'm like, damn, can I put the imprint? Like I just used it for what I could, you know, because it was
Sure.
like if I signed to him, let me get really make this a part of my brand, and just really had to do it on my own too, you know. So I just treated that as like, okay, that's extra that I have a cosign, but it's still all me, because there was a lot of people who had the same cosign who was just not doing nothing, you know. And I was like, I refuse to be that. And I started with one tape, did another one, got some more fans. Then I started doing shows for like 500, $1,000, opening up for people, you know. Then I did another mixtape that my with Don Cannon, that really broke through, and that really upped my
Shout out
game.
to the
And then
homie
I started working.
Ken.
Yeah, it's Finally Famous Volume 3. I remember I had my first show in Atlanta. First sold out show was at the Masquerade or something like that. The Masquerade.
Everybody's first
And,
show that was Travis Scott's probably his first show, that show in Atlanta. I remember going to
yeah,
the Masquerade, man, and man, Travis had that motherfucker wall to wall. I was concerned. It
yeah.
was
And I remember
my
I
place.
did too. Yeah, that Trav, my brother too. And I remember Saha was at that show, and Saha was like, man, he was like, I ain't think this motherfucker was gonna be like this. Like,
Mm.
and I just kept building, bro, kept building. And then I started working with No ID on my first album.
He was
And I
also a dick,
remember,
by the way.
yeah, of course, yep. And
Brother Dion, also known as No ID, bro. Like he's just,
yeah,
a genius of our times.
absolutely, bro.
He's
That's my
actually the
brother.
person who Kanye patterned his production style or his acumen after.
Yeah, that's Kanye big bro, his mentor, you know.
Absolutely.
So
He brought us Kanye. So all of you motherfuckers who, what I'm saying, who have love for Kanye but have no idea who No ID is, do your research.
that people should know now. He No ID didn't did worked with
Be
everybody. Shit.
surprised. You'd be
Damn.
surprised. You really be surprised. So it's
Yeah.
important
Damn.
that we articulate that, man, that we got now, what I'm saying, at least plant the seed so those who didn't know can water the seed, give it sunlight so it can grow into a full-blown plant. But we got to give them the information, because we feel like just because the information is available, because we would have, when we were in our moment of not knowing, we would have taken advantage of all this information and used it to our advantage. So because of that, we think that other people are doing what we would have done, but everybody ain't doing that. Sometimes motherfuckers looking to people like you, me, and others to say, oh, okay, well, that's what we should be doing. So I'm telling y'all now, research No ID, understand the discography, the catalog, and the consistent contributions to the culture that he has made. And you know what I'm saying? That was
Decade after decade too. Even when he was ghost producing with JD, you know, even back then, like.
See, now you
So,
telling me about some shit I ain't even know. You mean tell me?
oh yeah,
Hold up now.
yeah.
So talk to me. So you have
Ghost producing with JD, not for him, but with him. You know what I'm
what
saying?
that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Let's explain to the people who may not know what that means.
That means that No ID had, you know, No ID was. Matter of fact, you talk to him about that. That's something you should talk to him about, because I don't want to get any details.
How about this? Not speak about that particular situation in detail. Tell me what ghost producing is.
I mean, ghost producing is necessarily you don't get the credit on paper, but you were responsible for a lot of the track or parts of the track, or you contributed to it heavily. But sometimes
Give
they'll
you
put
cash up
they'll
front
put
to keep you from putting your name on it.
yeah, because another producer may just want it to be fully their name, but they'll be like, "Hey, I give you this bread to help me with this in a way." I mean, this happened with Pharrell and Teddy. Yeah, Teddy Riley,
Now I
and
did know about that. Pharrell,
yeah,
actually, Pharrell, Missy, and Timberland.
yeah, a lot of them.
All with Teddy Riley.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's something that goes on a lot, and I'm sure it still goes on to this day.
Sure.
You know
I've
what I
had
mean?
people offer me. I had producers offer me this who were dope as shit, right? And I produce too. I fuck around, but
I
I
already know.
haven't, huh?
I already know you do. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
but like, I started fucking around as a producer because I just couldn't afford myself the level of talent that I thought was, that could fit my rhymes or that could fit my thoughts or my visions.
And as an artist, you know what type of track you want too, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes
you
like
gotta, as you write the shit, you hear it in your head.
yeah. So like I produce songs too. Like even on my last album, there's one song a couple of that I produced
Which
with.
one? Which ones?
This one that I got with Dwelle called "Everything That's Missing." That's one of the ones, and there's another one I have production credit on too that I did something on. I can't. Definitely "Everything That's Missing." That was the one I really mainly produced with my
Gotcha.
producer, but it's just like we hear it in our heads, you know what I'm saying? So we already know. But even songs like "Ass," like way back, with Nicki, that was a song that I produced as well. I wasn't smart enough to take the production credit like I should have, but I made the beat with the interns. Like I literally made it with them, like literally, So those are my brothers. So I'm not taking anything away from what they did.
It's important to know. Listen, this discussion is only for the purpose of benefiting the people.
Yeah. Man, this ain't tearing nobody down because they deserve their credit too. But I should have
other shit outside of. That's the thing. Everybody, it seems as though, is waiting on one big score, one big thing that's going to change their lives forever. And that isn't the way it works. That it is a culmination of consistent progress being made. This opportunity leads to the next opportunity, which leads to the next opportunity, and just get bigger and bigger and bigger until you reach a point where you up. You see what I'm saying? But a lot of motherfuckers feel like, okay, this is the first placement I got. It's on Big Sean album. Big Sean got now. He big. He got a budget. I want this. And when you do that, you gouge the opportunity.
Yeah. And honestly, I just wasn't even knowledgeable enough to speak up. Sometimes you just got to speak up for your credit that you deserve too.
Sure.
There's been a lot of times where I've been in a room with, especially when I was coming up, like with Ye and with other people where I contributed to songs and I necessarily didn't like hound them and be like, I need my credit because I was just catching a vibe or, certain things like that.
We do that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it's
hit or miss too.
Huh?
It's hit or miss.
It's hit or miss.
You know what I mean? So sometimes we just be in there, we just be vibing and just be contributing. And sometimes it's just best that we fall back and just let them, let that represent and be an urban legend or a myth that I had something to do with this. And sometimes you got to say something. Shit. Hey, I think this shit is going to go somewhere. So let me just at least say it. Hey, if this shit makes it anywhere, could you just holler at me about my splits? Cause I contributed here. It gotta be a lawyer conversation. It could be a casual conversation, but just keep me in mind.
Yeah, because 1 or 2% could change your life for real.
You know what I'm saying?
On some records.
So we talked about how, you know what I'm saying, how it felt to wait for 4 years and how you had to take matters into your own hands.
Yeah, and build it up on my own, and that gave me a solid fan base. That gave me like a fan base that I feel like is gonna last. I feel like you have your core fan base that it's gonna ride for 20 years from now. You know what I'm saying? 25 years from now, when you 65,
But
you gonna be
whoa, I'm not whoa. I mean, I'll be 64 in 20.
Right.
Now listen, man. But I think that it's important that people see that shit don't happen overnight. You
Period.
have to invest. You have to sacrifice. You have to discipline
Mhm.
yourself. You know what I mean? And you have to remain consistent. It's a consistent scaling
Yeah.
and repetitive contribution.
And you got to take care of yourself.
Sure,
See,
sure.
this is something that nobody told me. This is where I got it fucked up at. And what set me back a little bit. Like the reason why I hadn't put an album out in 3 years is because I was burnt out up here and
Mm.
I wasn't taking care of myself. So that's
How
something
can
that I
we take
think
care
that
of
people need to
ourselves?
know. Man, taking care of yourself for me is one of the things to take care of yourself for me is to take time for yourself. I was doing it for everybody else, like doing it for my family, doing it for putting everybody on, like being in the studio all the time, right? But there's a balance to it. Like there are times where I would be in the studio all day and not be productive as I should have been, but just because I'm in the studio, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. But really, that may not been the right thing. You know, I realize now that there are times where I was in the studio for an hour and got more done in an hour and a half than I did in 14 hours. And
Mm.
realize that you got to listen to yourself, you know, and that's something I wasn't doing. And it got to a point where I burnt myself out mentally. So I'm in the studio not coming up with shit. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling the most anxiety I'd ever felt in my life. You know, I'm feeling like I'm hopeless. You know, I'm feeling all these things that, you know, my mind was getting the best of me. And I had to stop everything I was doing because I was gonna self-destruct. You know what I mean? And I had I had to talk it through. I had to go to therapy. I had to start taking care of my body more. I had to eat better. I had to work out. I had to spiritually take time to strengthen that foundation, you know, through meditating, through working with people who are really spiritually grounded, you know, and have a strong connection with God and
Mm-hmm.
Jesus and all these things. So it was like that took time, you know. It took a long time for me to. It took about a year for me to get on a rhythm and on you know, a consistent schedule. And I still feel a lot of these ways, but I just know how to deal with it a lot better now, you know.
That's the thing. Because we are very rarely in control of the things that happen to us. We are only in
Hmm.
control of how we respond to it.
Yeah.
A lot of times we feel, like you said, anxiety, and a lot of times we feel a lot of pressure when we can't control the things that are happening.
Yeah, you know, but we could control how we feel,
Sure,
you
sure.
know,
How we
and
allow ourselves to feel.
yeah, how we allow ourselves, because you just give somebody else that power when you let somebody tear you down. And it's like, I feel like as an artist, you got to stay on your path, like in your valley. And it's like, it's going to be people to the right of you, it's going to be people to the left of you. And like, they're going to be throwing shit, talking shit. And if you give them attention, it's like you going over to them and they just going to be throwing it and talking shit more to you. But it's like, you got to stay in your valley, bro, and realize as an artist, our heart is wide open. So we care what people think, but that ain't why you doing it for. You doing it because this is your, for me, at least for me, I feel like this was my life purpose is to give inspiration. And how the best way I could do that is to, you know, because down to my story, how I got on, it's like a rap fairy tale, you know, and everyone
Mhm.
has a different story. So
True.
it's like I realized my whole life is to inspire and to motivate. And the best way for me to do that is through my music. So I just, as long as I put my heart into it, I'm walking in my purpose, you know?
That makes all the sense in the world. I feel like as an artist, like we have to, and I think for me, being a Libra, the scales being our sign, you know what I'm saying? I think that I kind of have found,
You and Wayne, Libras.
yeah, me, Wayne, Jeezy, you know what I'm saying? There's a few of them.
Jeezy.
Will Smith,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a few of us, but
My
yeah,
brother too.
absolutely, man, all of them.
Yeah, go
I,
ahead
f-
now. Yeah.
I feel like I find a way to balance caring because we must care. We got to care in order to know how to connect. You dig what I'm saying?
Hmm.
If I don't have no
Yeah.
empathy in what everybody else going through, like for instance, right now we up. So us being up, if we have no empathy, no consideration for the people who are not up, we wouldn't be able to use our testimonies to relate. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But we got to balance caring with not giving a fuck. Cause we got to not give a fuck.
Gotta not give a fuck, man.
Got
For
to
real.
not give a fuck. So it's the balance of caring enough to relate, but not giving a fuck enough to not be, you know, affected by the
And want to change your shit. Cause there's people out here that, you know, not only is it people that don't have good taste, right? It's it's
but they
also
don't even
people,
know it though.
you know,
Because
it's
they
also
ain't been exposed.
yeah, it's also people who say things to get a response or a rise, or you know, we live in a social media era, which is a beautiful thing, right? Because we all connected. It's you know, it's a lot of ways that we all are unified through social media, which I think is beautiful. But it's also like you just got to remember that some people on there for different reasons. You know, I was talking about this with Big Boy from Big Boy's Neighborhood, not Big Boy from Outkast. And he was just like, man, we live in an era where people talking about smash or pass, or where people picking apart people's children or shit. Like just he was like this shit. He was like this shit sickening to me. You know what I'm saying? It's sickening.
You know what this
But
is saying, love?
yeah, but at the same
Finish your thought. Finish your thought. I apologize. I have a hard time not interrupting people. I apologize.
no, it's fine. But you know, the thing is just like, okay, you just gotta understand that people are in their own universe, in their own world, and that like, yeah, you gotta care, but you also gotta not give a fuck or let it throw you off, because at that point you afraid to be yourself then, if you're afraid to be judged, you know, and that ain't beneficial for nobody.
That's American. That's an American thing, by the way.
Mm.
That's an American thing to, you know, be afraid to ask questions, to always feel like you're supposed to know the right answer. And,
Damn.
and you feel judged, or you feel marginalized, or ostracized if you don't know something you feel everybody else knows. That's an American thing.
Wow, break that down to me a little bit. That's deep.
I mean, like I learned that, like I have a boxing instructor that I was fucking with out in LA, and he's African. He's from Africa, I believe Nigeria. I don't know exactly from where, but he you know what I'm saying, he from Africa. And he was like, yo, when you when you throw it, when you throw a punch and you're not sure if you did it right, ask. Don't feel so, you know, don't feel like you
Right.
can't ask the question, because there are no stupid questions. You don't know. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? If you don't know, the best thing to do is ask.
Yeah.
And anytime you feel apprehensive about doing that, like that's a fear that has been indoctrinated in us by the culture of our country.
I believe that's so accurate.
You know what I mean? As a kid, like just imagine, bro. I've seen motherfuckers just pull up in our neighborhood and as you know what I'm saying, like we were just kicking it. Hey, how you get to the highway from here? Man, where you from? You don't know how to get to the highway from here, man. Goddamn, all you gotta do is, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that happening over time from birth, being in an environment that has that kind of judgment, just for a mere question, that's gonna cause you over time after you've grown up and you've become a young adult or whatever. You're gonna be like, man, let me pick and choose who I ask questions to, bro. I ain't just finna be out here asking questions and letting motherfuckers know that I don't know. Like that's
Right.
just kind of like that's an armor that we put on us, even if it's subconsciously. And that shit is counterproductive. It's disruptive to our personal growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it ain't until we reach the stages that you've reached, or that I'm you know still achieving to reach, that
I mean, I am too, still achieving, you know, for
we
real.
always are, bro. Everybody, I mean, we
Till we die.
we look at people, right? So there's three versions of us, and I've said this so many times. There's how we see ourselves, how the world sees us, and how we really are. So us understanding that how we see ourselves versus how the world sees us versus who we really are, that battle, right,
Mhm.
is constant, and we got to be kind of like conscious and secure and confident enough to know that we're so good at what we know
Mm.
that we don't have to be ashamed of what we don't know. You dig what
Fact.
I'm saying? But
Yeah.
that shit come with growth and evolution. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And not only growth and evolution, it comes with letting it be known that that's okay. That's okay. You don't know it's okay. Like,
Sure. It's all right to not know. We all, man, we place the responsibility or we imagine, like just think about it. The way people see Obama, you don't imagine he wake up one day and don't know something. Can you imagine Obama trying to figure out how to do something?
right.
It goes against your perception of who you envision him as being. But
And
the
all knowing.
reality is,
Yeah.
we're all just waking up trying to figure this shit out.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And ain't nothing wrong with that. Can you imagine Jay-Z not knowing how to, like, I'm talking about simple shit. Like,
Right.
we can't get the TV to work. Can you imagine Jay-Z picking up a remote control and not knowing how to work his fucking TV? It happens to everybody, bro.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? But
Right.
how we perceive him, how we perceive them, how they perceive us. The pressure of that makes it kind of, we get anxiety in public places when we, like for instance, I can't play basketball. You dig what I'm saying? Like that is just something I ain't,
This is not your shit.
it ain't my shit. Cause I ain't spend no time on it when I was a kid. When motherfuckers was riding bikes playing basketball, I was selling crack.
Facts.
I just didn't develop that skill. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a tenacious competitor. And you know what I'm saying? If the idea is to keep that ball from getting in this hoop, I'm gonna find a way to do it.
Right.
So because that isn't my thing, you're not gonna catch me when I'm gonna walk into a place where cameras are rolling and there's a bunch of people say, "Hey, Tip, here, take a shot, shoot this ball." Nah, bro, I ain't finna do that, my man. I ain't doing that one. So, but I think that people need to understand, bro. It's all right, man. I heard a quote. Is you got to give yourself a chance to suck at something.
Damn. Who said
You got to
that?
give yourself a chance to suck at something. That's the
Isn't it
only way that you evolve and get better.
Yeah. Period.
And I feel like you kind of mastered the art of that. You're being open. You're sharing yourself with the world, showing all of your strengths, showing you being vulnerable enough to show your weaknesses. You dig what I'm saying? And letting people in on the parts of your life that as hip hop artists, most of the time, we are kind of trained to conceal.
Yeah. One of my biggest issues I have is communication, bro. I'm not the best communicator. And I know that's something that's like, I don't know if it got passed down from my family. Like I said, my grandparents was in World War II, right? So they were beautiful people, but they didn't know how to express their emotions. And I don't know if that trickled down to me. And like, I'm not the best communicator, even though I can rap, even though I can, tell a story or, do all these things, right? It's just like, sometimes I can't get across how I'm feeling. And that's a very important thing. And that's something I've been working on too. It's like that strains a lot on, my relationship with my family sometimes.
Right.
Other relationships, you know what I'm saying? Like business, communication is so important in romantic, business, friendship, everything, And I'm not the best communicator, so I've been working on that more too.
You know what? I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I'm an over communicator.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna talk you to death. I have an ability to articulate the shit that's on my mind, and I can convey that message into you. And I shoot like many different ways, many different words, like just okay. You don't see it when I say it that way. Okay, cool. I'm gonna try and say it this way. So, and that frustrates me more. See, your inability to communicate, right, is to keep you from being frustrated. I'm not even gonna try to tell nobody how I'm feeling. I ain't even gonna try to tell nobody what's on my mind because I don't want to deal with the moment when I say it and they don't get it. I don't want to deal with that. So to keep me from dealing with that, I ain't gonna say shit.
Exactly.
You dig what I'm saying? Now, me
Exactly.
on the other hand, how I am, I think I have the words to tell you exactly how I'm feeling, and you should understand me. So I'm gonna take a stab at it. So when I
Mhm.
go, the first time, it's like, fuck you talking about? Okay. So listen. And then
Right.
I tried again. Like, she sound crazy. At first, but if you really listen, you'll
Mhm.
see. And after the third, fourth time, the shit still don't work. Then it's really like, man, fuck you, bro. Like at that point, I'm like, man, you know what? Fuck you, fuck this, fuck all of it. Ain't no more talk.
Yeah, at least you get it across though, you know?
No, it never, but sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't.
But at least you get it across. It may not have got across to them, but at least you get it. At least it's
So
said
I
though.
didn't internalize it, is what you're saying. I got
Yeah,
it out.
there have been times where I internalized a lot, and I realized, that communication is so important. It's like communication can save a nation. That saying is so important, and I really do think that communication is the way to. I said this. I don't know if this even makes it makes total sense to me. I said communication is the bridge to salvation that God is holding our hand to walk across. But like any bridge, you
Mm,
can't miss out on a single step. And to
right,
me, that's what communication is. Communication is that every step of it.
right, right.
So that is like something that I'm working on like all the
Well,
time.
continue to work on it, but just understand communication is a two-way street. The person has to be as willing to receive
hmm
the
Person or
message.
people, yeah, or companies. I be
Right.
trying to, yeah.
They have to be the other side has to be as willing to receive this message
hmm
as you are willing to convey this message. Now, a lot
hmm
of time the disconnect come because motherfucker ain't really willing to tap into what you're saying. They ain't buying into what they ain't even placed their minds, hearts, and perspectives in a place where they can even see it a way other than their own.
Yeah, see, like
You
here's
feel
an
like you're wasting
example.
your time at that point.
Yeah, because here's an example. It's like, okay, I saw the president be mad about this is just a clear example, at athletes kneeling during the national anthem, right?
Mhm.
It's like they disrespecting the flag. And I'm like, obviously a flag that represents justice, equality, and freedom, which are things that we're clearly not getting. It's literally, it's almost like they feel that it's a lie, right? So it's like, is nobody communicating to him that this is why we getting shot in the street, we getting,
Listen,
by
bro.
police officers, we getting, with no repercussions. So it's like, okay, that's just a clear example of like who is communicating, like,
Hey,
you know
listen.
what I mean?
Let me tell you something. You're right. However, they know.
They know.
They know exactly what the fuck
Of
going
course they know.
on. You dig what I'm saying?
They
Like,
just find making up a reason to make it sound legitimate.
bro, they and oppressors' number one job is to oppress.
Facts.
So anyone speaking out, standing up against oppression, they're going to disagree. They're
hmm
going, and even if they don't know why they disagree, they're just like, for instance, I've gone up to white people who support Trump, and I say, hey, you said make America great again. Go back to the period of time that you think America was the greatest and tell me what you're trying to replicate.
And they'll go back to a time where we were.
They don't have the answer. Well, it's been plenty of time. No, it was great for you. But if you look at the totality of Americans and what America is supposed to represent,
It never represented that.
tell me a time that you're trying to go back to
Never.
that is a embodied that embodies that. And they never can answer it. They
Nah.
say, like, listen, I asked I asked Kanye did, right? This one when he
Mhm.
started wearing the hat and all that shit, which I want to get into with you later. But he started wearing the hat and shit. And
Mhm.
I was like, hey, Kanye, bro, what you doing? Like, what you mean when you wear that hat that said "Make America Great Again"? Like, what period are you talking about?
Mhm.
And he was like, well, the industrial age, you know what I mean? The industrial period with like Henry Ford and Like, you do know that's like Jim Crow, right? Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that time is still a time when we were marginalized and like
Absolutely.
and women didn't have the same kind of rights and so you know that you
Any rights.
exactly. So you know that you saying that you want to get back to the times of then is kind of it's a slap in the face to those people who didn't have the same rights and liberties as we have now. You understand that, right?
See, that's great communication.
She got me nowhere. That shit got me nowhere. You're like, yeah, but love everybody, man. You know. So,
Right.
but that led to us doing the record that we did, Kanye versus the People, which I felt like was an immaculate display of two people from different sides of the spectrum, kind of like just hashing it out.
Yeah, and very well done and articulated too. I was like really impressed by just the concept of that song too.
Man, thank you. That shit was very haphazard. That shit was not done. We didn't plan on doing that shit. That song was at the end of a 4-hour discussion.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of after we've been talking for 4 hours, and I didn't change his perspective. He didn't change my perspective. I said, it was like, yo. Now he said, actually, it was his idea. He said, why don't we just do a song about this? And I said, you sure you want to do that? And he was like, yeah, man, let's. And so then we just got there, pulled up a beat and just went off, you know.
Creativity at its finest.
When he finished, I started. When I finished, he started. But I want to ask you, like, since Kanye is your mentor and the gatekeeper that kind of ushered you into this
Mm-hmm.
and him being so outspoken on so many different levels about so many different issues and topics,
Mm-hmm.
how does that kind of feel to you as a because you're from Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
It's different.
That's different. You know what I'm saying? Being from places like Detroit, Oakland, Chicago, New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans, you know what I mean? Atlanta.
Atlanta.
You dig
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's a little different. So you being from Detroit and a lot of the stances that Kanye takes personally, they're
Mm-hmm.
separate apart from you and his relationship. Even though you ain't got shit to do with his opinions and his perspective, how
Right.
does that make you feel being like tied in and associated to it?
Like I said, I feel like he's entitled to his own opinions as I am, right? As I am with mine, but it's not surprising or I'm not surprised by it at all because Kanye has always been opinionated. He's always been somebody to speak his mind. He's always like gone against the grain or, just or if that's how he felt, that's how he felt. So
Right.
it's like I can never hold against him how he feels. And like I said, that's somebody who changed my life, gave me the opportunity to get my mama in a new crib and my grandma, right? So it's like I'm always gonna respect him creatively and respect him on another level. So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to even answer that question all the way.
So basically, you just got there. You rely on your loyalty. You know what I mean? Even in times of disagreement, you just rely on your loyalty to him based
Well,
on
there's been a lot of times me and him disagreed on a lot of things, and we had to argue it out, and we have to,
how the
talk it
fuck
out.
you argue with Kanye, bro? Like I tried it. I've tried that shit like 3-4 times.
I mean, it's not. It's
I left with a headache every time, bro. And I
I
was
don't know.
yo,
I don't know if you call
like,
it arguing or if you just call it like,
nah, it's arguing. It's
yeah,
arguing. When you steady like, nah, bro. Look, it's right here. You can't see this.
yeah. Well, one of the things that he always does is he respects. Kanye is always going to respect the individual. He's always going to respect
That's
somebody
true.
who has an opinion.
That's
So
true.
even if he don't agree with you, he always going to respect you. And I think that is a true measurement of somebody who is really selfless. Somebody who really, whether you agree with them or not, he's not like he gonna cut you off. You know what I'm saying? In that way, at least for the situations that we were
Okay,
going against,
I get it.
because we talking about music, right? It'd be
We
times.
could like shut everybody off and like totally stop you from talking the way people say I do my guests on expeditiously. But I'm working on getting better. But you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So like him working himself up to the statute or the status that he has in
Uh,
this culture, he doesn't have to listen to anyone.
no, he don't.
So his ability or willingness to listen to people is a form of selflessness, you say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that well, no matter what, he's done so much as an artist that you're always gonna like. I feel like that's the reason why he can do all these things, and it's like there's no way you could cancel him or anything because
Mm,
I mean, to me, artistically, it's like you always gonna hear Kanye out to me. That's just how I feel.
that's true. He's incredibly dope.
Like I feel like
Incredibly
Kanye,
dope. I'm
I
gonna
feel like,
listen to it, whether I tell everybody I'm listening to it or I
uh,
just listen to it on my own. I want to hear it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I feel like he hasn't changed who he is. Like from the get go,
The clothes, however, I could do with that.
the what?
Some of the clothes I could do with that. You know what I mean? I'm not running to buy the, potato sacks with
Right.
the dye and the holes in them for
Yeah.
1800 just because Kanye put his name on it. I ain't gonna do that. But I
Period.
do respect the fact that he took time to invest in his ambition to be a fashion designer. He
Mm.
went an intern when he was already a big star. You know what I mean? Taking that kind of time when you could have been, sailing the French Riviera on a big yacht, man, with a bunch of bitches in bikinis and doing all the kind of shit that I chose to do. He could have done that, and instead he went and interned, in Paris amongst the who's who in the fashion industry. And I respect that because that, evolved itself and it
Yeah.
made him what he is today, the
Yeah.
icon in fashion that he is today. So I respect that.
Yeah. I respect that too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Kanye, me and Kanye had we man,
I got some motherfucking
I don't know.
classes.
I mean, yeah, we do have classes, but our relationship is so fucking unorthodox. It's so ambidextrous. I don't understand how we could be polar opposites in our
Opinion
perspectives, opinions, uh, and still kind of
or
have
political views
a
rather.
commonality when it comes to art and music and how it should be monetized.
Well, because that's one thing. Politics and like that, that's one thing. That's just one subject. It's a very important one, right? It's one that has a great effect on our environment and
Yeah.
our neighborhoods and where we live, right? But y'all connected on a level that's deeper than that. Y'all connected on a artistic level, on a
Man,
personal level, on a have a brotherhood. You know what I
sure,
mean?
sure.
So even when it's been times where where I was going against my brother, complete different opposites of the spectrum, but still my brother though. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect example of what Kanye and my relationship is
Mhm.
this day. But he's done some shit where I was like, man, fuck that. Man, look, bro. When he was hey, listen, when he went to the
Tell
White
me about
House,
it.
when he went to the White House, and that man goddamn did this to that man, I was like, bro, the fuck are you doing? This shit ain't the move. And also the Harriet Tubman shit. The Harriet Tubman shit, I was like, man, that shit is egregiously wrong. Like, you can't just do that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like the message that he's using right now, what the message that his platform is pushing about equity and independence for artists within the music industry,
Mhm.
100% in totality behind him.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I think he's absolutely right about this. So I can
Absolutely.
support this as much as it should be supported. Now, Kanye, I would tell you, the man produced probably one of the greatest or some of the greatest music that I have been a part of in my life.
Mhm.
One of which being doing my job, just doing my job. That was the record that he did for me on trap music.
Yeah.
First
Great.
time, first time me and Kanye, you know what I mean? First time in the studio with him.
Mhm.
Uh, and also my first time hearing Jesus Walks before it came out.
Yeah, wow, damn.
While we were recording, just doing my job, the man said, "Hey man, I want to let you hear some shit that I'm working on. I want to let you see what I." And he played that shit for me. I say, "Boy, you crazy." Immediately, I was like, "Boy, you crazy? You sure you want to do that? Like, why would you? You know what I mean?" And they were before Through the Wire. They were before all that.
Let
And
me tell you, was you working was you working with Toomp at this time?
I was definitely working with Toomp. Toomp is my Dr. Dre, so Toomp brought me in the game. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
first producer that I could go to was Toomp.
yeah, no, so I know, so Toomp, so that was when were they in the studio together then too, or was it just you and Ye? Oh, it was just you and Ye.
Yeah, me and Ye. Toomp and Ye found themselves, they developed and formed their own relationship, you know, after that, a few years later. But at that time when I was like, man, you go crazy, man, if you think you finna get on the radio and talk about Jesus walks and so on and so forth.
I know.
I was wrong. He was right. And he showed me that. So, you know what I'm saying? I will always, that's why I think is that moment that allows me to give him a certain elevated level of consideration.
That's what I mean.
Because I've been wrong before. When he came to me with some shit, and I was like, nah, I don't know, man. And he showed
right. And it's not saying that he can't be wrong, obviously, right? He's
absolutely not. He been wrong several times from then to now. And you know what I'm saying? But I still subconsciously like,
because you know what? When people touch your heart, you know, in a way, and I'm not saying like in the deepest way, but when people touch your heart or affect you, or you know, if for anybody, it's just like you kind of have a somewhat of a more of a like, you're just more open to what they got to say, even if you don't agree with it. It's like you just like, okay, you know, it's for certain people.
Man,
It's like if Obama started talking crazy, we might would be like,
you think
you're gonna hear him out though? And be like, what? You know?
You know what I think my hypothesis, my theory about Ye? And I've said this to him too, so I ain't really got no problem saying it publicly. I feel like he was ostracized to the point where he Anakin Skywalkered himself. You dig what I'm saying? Like, I remember I was in prison, so you know what I'm saying, time was standing still for me. I remember when he got on stage and snatched that mic out of Taylor Swift's hands. But in defense, he did it in defense of Beyonce.
Right.
As inebriated as he may have been, and as inappropriate as it may have seemed, he did that shit because he felt that the people who were giving out these awards were doing it without enough consideration for our culture and our contributions to it. And I think he was right about that. How he handled it, definitely wrong. You know what I mean? Just like compare that to communication. Absolutely. Let's compare that to the moment when Lil Mama hopped up on stage during the New York performance with Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, right? Equally inappropriate.
That might have been more inappropriate.
You dig what I'm saying? But she didn't get the same backlash. She didn't get the same kind of, the president, the first Black president, called Kanye an asshole publicly, who's from his same city of Chicago. Can you imagine, right? Placing yourself in a line of fire, hopping up on stage, snatching the mic out of, I guess you could call America's sweethearts, one of the national treasures of America, being Taylor Swift, snatching the mic out of her hand as a Black man on Hennessy, because that's an elevated level of,
that's an element, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? On Hennessy, saying, I'm gonna let you finish, but you know you shouldn't have won this award. My sister should have won this award. Beyonce is everything that da 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 da. Doing this in the defense of Beyonce.
Right.
And after that moment, being ostracized by the American public, and potentially, I don't know, even being ostracized by Beyonce and Jay-Z and your inner circle. Now, I don't know if this is true, but this is Kanye's version of it. You dig what I'm saying? That will drive you into a very dark place.
Yeah.
And if nobody comes into this dark place to hand you a handout, except someone like Donald Trump, who sees a way that he can manipulate your power and potential with the people that he doesn't have as much of an influence on, and kind of, you know what I mean? So I could see that part of it too. I don't offer excuses, only explanations.
Right. I see what you're saying though. And it was crazy. It's just like I never thought that it was even possible for somebody like Donald Trump to be president, because Donald Trump was respected in the rap community before he was president.
He was.
There's a lot of songs, a lot of rap.
He had me for my number and said he wanted to do some shit. I ran into him at the airport in Atlanta. And the man like asked me for my number. I'm like,
A long time ago.
Yeah, hell yeah, like 2005, 2004.
Before
I caught my case. Like this was early. You know what I mean? And he knew who I was though. I mean, he was tapped into the culture. Because I wasn't like, you know, a big time mainstream. I wasn't as big as you are now. I might have been as big as 42 Doug. You know what I'm saying?
It was in 2004?
2004. Yeah, I wasn't as big as you are now. Hell no. It took me to 2007, 8, 9. You know what I mean? To be as big as Big Sean is right now. You know what I mean? Like early on, I was really like, you know, the best kept secret. You know what I mean?
Cause that what year did what year did trap music come out?
2003.
You were pretty big then.
Shit.
Nah, you was pretty.
Now that 50 Cent got anything to say about it, which brings me to my next topic. Grow a pair and pick a date, 50. All right, so that was, you know what I'm saying, that was my little pause in the discussion just for my little, you know, my ad revenue. So in 2003, I may have been big in certain areas of society, which were kind of like the underserved areas of the community that we all know too well. I don't think on a mainstream level that I made it to a certain point that you already have, that you made it on your first album. Now, mind you, it took a consistent like advancement, like a consistent level of growth from album to album.
But back in 2000, I just want to say in 2004, you was. Come on, man.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it means a whole lot. That goes back to the connection that is most important when artists put out music. Because I made a certain connection to you. You didn't give a fuck how big I was, whether I was Grammy nominated, whether I was a #1 Billboard chart topping art. You didn't give a damn about that. You only cared about the connection that I made with you and the people around you. You know what I'm saying? And that go back to what we were talking about earlier. I may have been big in that way, but I just wasn't a global kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Man, you wasn't as.
I wasn't mainstream.
You got bigger. You were on your way up.
Sure.
Right.
But the point is, he recognized me, saw me in that moment, in that period of time, and said, hey, you know what? I know who you are. I want to get your number. And, you know, we should. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Sure. I get absolutely. Yeah. We never spoke or anything, you know what I'm saying, after that, but just for him to kind of identify me and know me and point me at, you know what I'm saying, that kind of shows that his awareness of the culture. You know, so to go from that to this,
it's crazy. Beyond, it's like the hell.
Anyway, so that takes me to Another thing that I heard in your music,
Mhm.
another thing that you kind of wear on your sleeve is your relationship with your
Mhm.
lady.
Mhm.
And you said in your music that the things that you were going through, it got so crazy to where you think that it contributed to the loss of a child.
Mhm.
How did that affect your artistry,
Mhm.
and how did it affect kind of like how you kind of proceeded in the relationship? Because I've gone through the same thing.
Hmm.
I'm gonna just tell you what happened with me first.
Yeah. Okay.
I broke up with my old lady at the time, man. I broke up with my old lady. We weren't married then, and it was really on some. She want one thing, I want another, so we can't come to a compromise. So just fuck it, we're just gonna break it off.
Mhm.
And it just so happened at the time she was pregnant. And a lot of things happened during the time that we were broken up. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of things.
That
And
that might have affected something.
you dig what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And she inevitably had a miscarriage.
Mhm.
And I bared the brunt of that for so long. And I ain't tell nobody, I ain't talk to nobody about it or no shit like that. I just
Mhm.
was like, damn, this shit my fault. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And moving forward, it altered some decisions and jaded some judgment because I just kind of second guessed or questioned whether or not I was making the right decision, whether or not I was doing the right thing, whether I was doing it because I thought that this was the reason why this happened. You know what I mean? Second
Mhm.
guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing. Uh,
Sure.
that's what happened to me.
I
But I
mean,
wasn't brave enough to talk about it. I
well, that's
didn't talk about it in my music. You did. So I just
yeah.
want to know how similar of an experience did you have and what made you be brave enough to talk about it in your music?
Well, when I came to the conclusion making this album that like, okay, if it's my real purpose to help somebody, inspire somebody, motivate somebody, it's like I may have to sacrifice my privacy to an extent and talk about things that are uncomfortable for me. Like even when I was talking about my heart disease, that's something that I compartmentalized. And I remember a lot of my family being like, don't mention that. People might not want
Mm,
to do deals with you. They might look at you like you don't have a strong heart and all these type of things, or like
mm,
you can't handle certain things, or
right,
so I never talked about that. Or like even with this, it was something that's like, okay, I know there are a lot of people who have to deal with miscarriages and losing a child, and it was like as uncomfortable as it is and as relevant as it is, I don't hear it that much in music. And I was like, I at least I gotta put it out there for people who can relate to that and people who need to realize that they're not alone, or
mm,
to feel that, because that's what you here to do. If you're here to entertain, here to inspire, I feel like I'm gonna have to sacrifice a lot of my privacy for my art and
right,
for the greater good. So that was the meaning behind it. And of course, in doing that though, it doesn't just involve me, it involved her too, but
right,
it's something that I communicated and like, you know, talked about. It wasn't just like I sprung it out of nowhere,
right. And
And
it's almost like if you ask her and she says that she don't really have a problem with it, then you know what I'm saying, what do the opinions of others really mean?
yeah, yeah, and that's what it was, But it's definitely something that still is like definitely on me. So it's like I can't even really talk
It don't
about it.
go nowhere. It don't
Yeah,
go nowhere. It get better, but it don't
yeah,
disappear. First of all, I want to thank you, you know
uh-huh,
what I mean, for your patience. You dig what I'm saying? I want to thank you for, making the time for us and being as candid and open and honest because
mhm,
it benefits, the audience and the people who find themselves in the positions that we were fortunate and blessed enough to make it out of.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And if we can help them navigate themselves through their journey, uh,
I
and
mean,
make
that's what we supposed to do.
absolutely, you must as I learned from Thug. Listen, this is one of my most quotable moments in Expedition. Young Thug said to me, "You must teach what has been taught."
Mm. Mhm.
That's how you fulfill, the prophecy of an evolution. Like, okay, if someone teaches you something, that's only part of the evolution. That's only part of the prophecy. Once they teach it to you and you then teach it to someone, you pay it forward. When you
I
do
mean,
that, I feel
yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying, that's the completion.
that's our whole purpose, bro.
Absolutely.
That's our
Uh,
whole purpose.
Now, we spoke about, your willingness, to speak about, what I'm saying, your personal life and how,
Mhm.
all of the wild shit that we go through led to um, the loss of a child.
Mhm.
And it's extremely commendable, extremely strong. You know what I mean? And I salute you as well as her, as well as your lady for allowing, you know, everyone else to share in that moment. People who have an ability to relate to to that and not keep it to yourself, you know what I'm saying, and harbor it. Now,
Mhm.
there's also something else, right?
Yeah.
There's another song that you got that I love, by the way. And it's like, I find that my girl plays this shit when I'm in the car. My wife, I still call her my girl, but my wife, my old lady, she play this shit in the car while I'm riding with her, like she trying to say something on the low. And the song is none of my concern anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And it seems as though you guys weren't, seeing eye to eye at the time when the song was made, but you
Right.
still made the song.
Yeah.
That is highly commendable.
Yeah.
That's extremely mature.
Yeah, man. That was a crazy. But it's cool that art that it was able to, at least some of that was able to come through in the art,
Sure, I
and
think that's the best way for it to come through. If it come through in a conversation, and the shit won't even be received the same, and it probably won't come. You know what I mean? So I
mm,
think it was dope the way that you guys did it. It didn't compromise the integrity of either of your positions. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And you had a chance to let your art speak for not
yeah,
just yourselves.
uh-huh.
You spoke for niggas in that position,
I
and
had to. It's real
and
cool.
she spoke for women in that position, and that
Yeah.
shit was dope.
He got it off in 3 verses though. I only had like a little bit at the end, but it's
Hey,
it's an honest song. It wasn't a song where it was like, yeah, you got to be the most lyrical in this. It was just us like expressing ourselves, and her whole album is from the heart, as mine is too. So it's like it's cool to. I feel like this is her biggest album and her biggest moment, and I'm happy for her too, to just be doing so well. And I feel like she's so talented. Feel me?
man, that's phenomenal. Now, uh, another, and I'm pulling from things that come from music. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be a part of no sensationalized, just propaganda, just trying to get that
Yeah.
bullshit for the purpose of headlines. That ain't what we do.
Right.
If this question can't benefit a motherfucker who listening to it, I don't need to ask it.
Yeah.
But in a song, the song that you got with Nip, you
Uh-huh.
said that cuz is passing made you kind of reevaluate a lot of the conflicts that you had in your life, and it pushed you to mend a relationship with Kendrick.
Mhm.
And the reason that I'm even mentioning this,
Mhm.
not to keep up a conflict or to sensationalize any
Of
kind of propaganda, but it's because so many of the people who look up to you, look up to me, look up to Kendrick, look up to us, they only have one way of resolving conflict.
Exactly.
You dig what I'm saying? And I remember Nip before he died. I remember him in an interview saying we have to readjust the way we respond to disrespect. We have to readjust the way we respond to a motherfucker disagreeing with us or having an adverse opinion to ours. Um,
Right. Because it make us look like a bitch, or it make you look like you're not speaking, or it just make you look. That's just not how we was taught. You're not taught to be like that. You taught to stand your ground, right, and If somebody disrespecting you, you got
American shit. Again, American shit.
American shit, right?
You know what I mean? But the thing is, when you made that decision to make that call, I want to know what parts of yourself you had to overcome to say, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And I also want to know, like, what was as much of what the call was like as you can share, and
It was.
and how your relationship is now.
I mean, it's not like it wasn't a big deal to me because, you know, this is somebody who had been to my house before. You know, I didn't came out his charity events before, so it was somebody who, you know, it was like we was peers. You know what I mean? And had a mutual respect for each other. So in the back of my head, it wasn't even nothing to begin with anyway. For real, it wasn't no beef. It was kind of like something that had sparked from the internet, or you know, people. And I'm talking about I'm talking about him in this song or this freestyle or this line. It was kind of like a thing like that, you know, I feel like it didn't apply to me. I can't speak for him, obviously, right? But it didn't even apply to me like that. But I knew, like, man, whenever I see him, I already know it's gonna be love. Like, I already knew that.
Right.
But at the same time, what Nip's passing taught me is when there are things on the back of your head, or you thinking you always got time to tell somebody it's all good, just because you know that don't mean that that person may know that, because it has never been communicated.
Right.
You know, and I don't even think that was on his, you know, I ain't saying that was on his mind or anything.
Yeah.
To even be thinking
Nobel
like
Peace Prize and all. I don't think that, you know, his conflict with Big Sean was at the forefront of his mind.
Yeah. And same with me, you know, because it wasn't a real conflict. It was just he said,
because it ain't people who really come from the lives that we come from. I don't know how. Now listen, mind you,
no.
I don't know how deep it goes. It runs, you know, relevant to your life. But for me, if you ain't shooting at me, bro, it ain't no problem.
Yeah, and if it ain't your family involved, you know, and which it wasn't. It was literally nothing like that. But it just happened that God lined up that I sat next to Punch from TDE, and we was just talking about other things. And then one of the things he brought up was like, hey, you ever reached out to K Dot? And I was like, nah. But soon as he said that, it popped back in my head like, damn, I really got to do that. And it was something quick, bro. It wasn't nothing like deep or no like long craziness. It was just us showing a mutual respect for each other. That's all.
Right. Well, listen, man, I think that it shows an incredible level.
But look, the only reason I mentioned it is because I lost a lot of niggas over dumb shit like that before. You know, shit that could have been just communicated with a 2-minute conversation. Like, hey, bro, it's all good. Like,
that shit hurt. My partner J. Rue died, man. We was still goddamn, we wasn't on good terms, and I still feel that shit. My partner J. Rue, he was like one of my best partners. We actually look just alike, they say, and we fell out because we were roommates. Like he had a 1-bedroom and I was sleeping on the floor with my, you know what I'm saying, with my girlfriend at the time, who became my first child's mother. And now, mind you, in the position that I'm in, I'm like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to make a way for myself, for us. And in his mind, he's like, man, my homeboy, you know what I'm saying? My homeboy here with me. We here together. We doing this shit together. And then, you know what I'm saying? This shit is, you know, like he saw it as, yeah, this shit is perfect. I saw this, motherfucker, I'm sleeping on the floor. How the fuck is this shit gonna ever be perfect? So I got a house. I hustled up on my way a house, and I told him, shit, man, I finna move out. I finna move out. I got myself a crib. We were like, word. And we were hustling together, like putting in and got down, getting packs. You know what I mean? Getting packs together and busting them down, and he'll hustle his piece, I hustle my piece. We'll come back together to re-up. You know what I mean? So that was, and basically when I told him that, he took the pack that we just came up on, and he kind of like cuffed it, and I knew he did it. And I was like, damn, bro, that how you gonna rock? But you guess what? You know what? Fuck you in that pack. And I just went on and moved on, and we hadn't spoke no more, you know what I mean, ever since. And then he died.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
And he was my real partner. And the money, and the amount of money that was in question, it might have been $7,500, shit like that. You know what I mean? which was, you know, at the time, a lot of motherfucking money. But in the grand scheme of things, thinking about a relationship that you had, the memories you've created, and kind of like the part that the motherfucker played in your life, $7,500, like today, if I'm looking back, that shit ain't nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I not just was it like that. It was a lot of relationships, you know, that I mended, like best friends growing up who we fell out. Like after Nip passed, it just inspired me to like not take time for granted, even though it's like I ain't even have a problem with him, right? Like one of my homies, Tone, who I came up with, who's my brother, like in a lot of my videos, and is now to this day, but we had not talked for years over just some minor business stuff, right?
Right.
To where we weren't seeing eye to eye, right? So, you know, him, a lot of my friends like that, like growing up. So it was just like I realized, and even for, you know, I'm not even trying to put this out there, but just for the point of it all, it's like I remember even with Kobe at the beginning of the year, I was chopping it up with Kobe, and he was supposed to come through and hear some of the music, you know, and then look what happened. You know, it's just you never know who is, you never know what's gonna happen, right? So if you have something on your mind and something to get done, it's like I just wanted to inspire people to do that, you know, not wait on anything. Like if you have anything on your mind, anything to clear up, like clear it up and move forward, because it's gonna do a lot for you too.
Sure. I think I have a situation like that, man. I have a situation like that with my partner, man. With Wayne. You know what I mean? Wayne and I, man, we
Wayne,
yeah. We came up together and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you talking about? Wait, who you talking about?
I'm talking about Wayne, Tunchi.
Wait, so y'all got what you mean? So what happened?
Just a little, just you know what I mean? Like, shit. I was overly critical of him at a time when he got down, was speaking kind of like he said some shit that you know what I mean, that I disagreed with, and I made that disagreement publicly. I made that disagreement public, and you know what I'm saying, and you know that altered our relationship. Although I stand by the principle, and you know he was wrong, and it needed to be addressed.
Mhm,
However, the forum in which I chose to address it, even though I tried to do it privately,
mhm,
I tried to do it privately like 3, 4 times before. But either way it goes, the shit happened. And you know what I'm saying? I just feel, you know, at some point in time, you know, like you just said, when I run into him, it'll be cool.
mhm.
But you know what I'm saying? Ain't now one of us, you know, made no extra effort in reaching that. But
No, you got to, man. Like what, you know? Come on, that's like as much as history and as much amazing like work of it as y'all done together. It's like just for y'all's
sure.
personal relationship, but just because y'all just two extraordinary voices, y'all just we need to unify. You know, it was people that had a lot of beef on that song on my album, The Friday Night Cypher. A lot of people from
And
Detroit,
that's the
like,
thing I
people
was gonna
in.
get to the Friday night cipher with
Yeah,
every motherfucker from Detroit going hard.
yeah.
Whose
And
idea
it's
was that? Whose
and
idea
it's
was that?
I mean, it was my idea because, like I said, the Friday Night Cypher was something that I did when I was 16 years old, that show. And it really helped mold me into who I am now, you know, in at least some ways. So musically. And I was like, man, one of the things when I was working on myself, like I told you, I went through a period where I really had to put myself first, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was doing when I was meditating and like taking time was like going back to like, okay, why was I so passionate? Because I feel like I had lost my passion. Like,
Right.
why was I sleeping on the floor in the studio? Why was I going to that radio station every Friday after school? And it was like just me going back in those moments. It gave me, it like re-sparked my passion. It's like I returned back to my roots as
Mm-hmm.
an elevated version of myself. So it made me think of the Friday Night Cypher. So I was like, damn, I gotta do Friday Night Cypher song, hit everybody up, got in the studio with everybody. But at the last minute, I'm like, damn, I need Royce on here.
Mm.
And I sent it to Royce, and then Royce was like, "Did you send it to Marshall?" But I had him on my album before this one, right? So
Right.
on the album before, so I'm like, damn, I ain't hit Marshall up because
You ain't want to ask for 2 favors in a row.
yeah, I know how
Yeah,
special it is to get a hit
I'm
first. You know,
like that.
I ain't about to keep asking, right? So
I'm like that.
yeah, so I sent it to him, and Royce was like, send it to M. I sent it to M. M fucked with it, and he wanted to just show that he was like, you know, he a part of the city too, and we all are. So it just,
Sure.
you know, that song is a 10-minute song, but it shows a different dynamic. You know what I mean? It showed a different
It's dope
dynamic.
all the way through though, bro.
Yeah, I
It's
appreciate
dope
that.
all the way through.
It's showing different sides. You got 42 Doug, you got T Grizzly, Cash Doll, Eminem,
But
Royce,
with all the payroll, cash out,
Payroll, yeah,
payroll, you got dope boy. You
yeah,
got, I mean, you got so many different motherfuckers.
mhm.
I
And
mean,
it
the
was
shit,
beautiful for the city. It ain't everybody from the city ain't on there, but it was like I had to cut a lot of I
it's,
had to cut some people off, cut it down
it's a lot
because
of motherfuckers, bro.
yeah, because it had to still be listenable. You know, I can't have no 15-minute song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, but 10 minutes, I think, yeah, 10 minutes is enough.
Yeah,
10 minutes is enough.
and it was hard to get the right beats though. That was just a big headache. But Hit Boy really came through and like, you know, for the whole album, because he executive produced the album.
Dope. You
And
know this shit lately.
yeah, he been on his shit, and he really was immersed as I was, and dedicated. I mean, like songs like the Friday Night Cipher, the intro, like Body Language. These are songs that you know, the intro. He made 4 different beats for that song, man. I was
Hey,
not satisfied. 5 different beats, rewriting songs. So it was just
I
cool
just
to see.
told him, nah, man, this ain't it. I don't like it. And he
And
can't.
we would argue with each other too. We would be arguing, but he would still do it though, you know. And I'm like that, bro. This
That's
songs
how,
I wrote 5 times on this album, rewrote 5 times, you know, till I got it how I wanted it. So it's just how it is. It's just how I am.
I think all that time, all that attention, all that energy that you put into it, it
Mhm.
paid off, and it delivered, to the fans. It delivered to your audience, to your core. It
Yeah,
delivered what they had been expecting. You know what I'm saying? Because Detroit One was, that shit was a classic. You know
yeah,
what
I
I mean?
appreciate
I
that.
mean,
Yeah,
not real spill, bro. That shit kind of like paved the way and opened the door for a new era of Detroit.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Kind of like, cause before you had to, you were underground. You know what I'm saying? You was
Right,
trying to make it,
right.
but you were the first black mainstream
Facts.
artist. You know what I'm saying, in
On
Detroit.
the beat.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think that shit means a lot.
It
That shit
do.
means a lot to a city. It means a lot to a generation. It means a lot to a culture. So, you know what I mean? And then for you to do that song, for you to be the one to do that song, that shit, goddamn that. Because Eminem could have did that song too.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not have meant as much, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
maybe because of how long he has been in position. But for you to
Right.
do that song right now in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
taking advantage of that opportunity, I think, it meant so much to so many. So
It
I
did.
I, I salute you and
Thank
commend you on that. All right, so it's over with. I appreciate your time. I have
you.
one last question in the name of Detroit.
Yeah.
Coney Island or Lewis Deli?
It depends what you going for. Lou's Deli came through in the clutch, but every neighborhood got a Coney Island, so it's like
Right.
they both
Coney
they
Island like Waffle House here in Atlanta.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Lou's Deli, it's only like 3 locations. So to me, I grew up on the same street as Lou's Deli, like one street over.
Yeah.
So Lou's Deli was like came through in the clutch, that corned beef.
Hey man, thank you. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. Not
Yes,
only for your contribution to the culture, man, but for your consideration and just what I'm saying, your candor. And
yes, sir.
we have a tradition here at Expeditiously, and that tradition is to have a word of the week.
Okay.
So the word of the week, it usually comes from the conversation or something that uh, the artist or the guest represents.
Okay.
The
I love
word, the word, huh?
I love that. My dad used to give me a word of the day when he would drive me to school. So it's
That's
crazy.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, in the spirit of that, the word of the week, the word selected is rumination.
Rumination.
Rumination. A
Mm.
deep or considered thought about something.
Rumination.
Mm. All right, so now what I do is, man, I use it in a sentence just so the people who listening, they can go off and, you know, at work or well, actually, they ain't going nowhere now. Shit,
Right.
motherfucker gonna be online doing a Zoom, but they gonna use their word and act like they done known this shit their whole life.
Well, what about
Okay.
the events that occurred affected me tremendously and had me in deep rumination?
You know what? I love it. That's that. So that's the sentence. You know what I'm saying? Hey man, way to come in the clutch, man. You a real motherfucking pro at this shit, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, you could tell this gentleman was raised by scholars. You dig
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying? Like I appreciate that because I think that, you know, more examples of this type of a representation of our people need to be at in the forefront and on mainstream media. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you for who
Like
you
I
are,
appreciate you, bro. Just
bro.
like I appreciate you.
You don't compromise the skill set just to
Mm-mm.
be intelligent or just to be cool, just
Nah,
to be relevant. You make sure that the integrity of your art form is maintained, man, on a high level. And
got
that's
to.
something I hold near and dear to my heart. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you, man. God bless you and shit. We overdue. We overdue, bro.
Already,
Don't
hey
make
man,
no
man,
sense. I
I
got
can't
you.
wait. Shoot
Yeah,
me anything. I'm gonna tear that motherfucker up
I already
immediately.
know.
And I'm gonna shoot you some shit and welcome you the opportunity to tear that motherfucker up. You know what I mean?
Huh.
Jay, give me an email or a phone number, whatever, and I'm gonna shoot that motherfucker over to you, man. And we gonna get it
Yeah.
done.
I'm gonna DM it to you. Just DM it to him? Yeah, DM it to him. Okay, I'm gonna just DM it to you on Instagram right now.
Say less. Hey man, love and respect, bro. Appreciate you for all you do. You know
Yes,
what I
sir.
mean?
God
Send my
bless you and your
best.
family.
Man, thank you. I was just gonna tell you, send my best to your family, your old lady, your mama, and everybody else, man, who has been your support system that enables you and allows you to do what you're doing for all of us, man. I appreciate it. All right.
Yes, sir. We're gonna get up. All right, bro.
Absolutely. And this has been Expeditious. Watch your favorite episodes of Expeditiously right now on the Expeditiously YouTube page.